Today I'm continuing with
Evil Ways of the Book of Azazel, Grimoire of the Damned by E.A. Koetting.
and before I get on to my comments about Gateway to Damnation, here's Gateway 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as mentioned in following, that's... And the Grimoires are a different sort of Bible. They're honest that they wrote it with their own hands. There's lots of symbols that you may use as directed, and I'm sure you can use as not directed too. And here goes. E.A. Koetting speaks of how he thinks that independent existence is an incomplete conception of existence. Death no longer seemed to be the only way to move awareness from the body. Evocation and translocation are his ideas of ascent and convergence. There needed to be a psychological change to affect these. Among traditional means of spiritual practice is to alter consciousness are magic, with the K. E.A. Koetting casually mentions sexual orgies. In Ipsissimus, E.A. Koetting wrote of the etheric body and how consciousness stays the same, but it is awareness that moves. Matthew Lawrence supposedly started his 18-year spiritual journey, 18-year spiritual evolution or ascent at the age of 12. But now thinks he was only bringing out lost abilities. So sort of debasing himself about his own work, if he did such work. We don't know the extent, but let's take him at his word. He was 30 when writing this book, and then is when the demon Azazel supposedly revealed in a vision about a moon in the dark ring of Saturn. That is where the demon said the
Infernal Empire
is. When Antharatu has questioned about this occult gateway to hell in Cassini's division, 5 more gateways were revealed, but this could be formed by the magician. The Gateway of Pax was 3 verses of 5 characters evenly spaced within a ring around a blank circle. And by the way, those lines that I formed in the things, if you couldn't see the detail, those are supposed to be candles, so those aren't actually characters in that circle of Pax. Kingdoms of Flames was supposedly transcribed with the same characters when Matthew Lawrence was 20. There is no way that this renders into the ATA chant in a linguistic way. The belief is that this design will make the spirits obedient. But I say that the free will of the jinn is intact, an iridescent blue-green design like unto 3 triangles, changing direction inside of each other, with a dot in the middle, and a bar at each outer corner was seen to the left of Azazel's throne in his shadowy man cave. This symbol is used to connect, in a consecration sort of way, a rectangular 9-paned non-permanent sigil with 5 symbols in the middle, is used to connect to the house of Anatel, or demonic warriors. Oh, it's this, the 8 with the big old circle. That's in the middle. A second gateway to be drawn upon a wall is like a Vesca Pisces, along with 17 holes along both sides. This symbol is like a sideways mouth with 34 teeth. The symbol that is like a sideways mouth with 34 teeth is used to connect to the house of Retztal, or demonic priest. A sideways ovoid within a lozenge, with spikes coming from the middle of each side, is used to connect to the house of Malkash, or demonic informers. Couldn't these symbols for those realms or houses hold other meanings and other uses? If it took 18 years and many rituals in an old, relatively unused cemetery next to a racquetball court for magic to become real to him, his followers probably have similarly long periods to get to the point they think he is at. He used his chalk to perform his evil magic there. The ground seemed to dematerialize, and Matthew Lawrence swooned. After smacking the pavement, he saw Azazel as a darkness with eyes of burning sapphire on a living molten obsidian throne. His legions were as smoke circling their master. Azazel. The third gateway seemed to break apart the particles of reality before showing a sea of demons ready to attack him from a dark earth. And, the first 2 gateways were seen. After convincing himself that these would protect him from the demons, he used the 4th gateway to go into a stone temple lined with glowing moistness. Just as he could not pronounce the script, Matthew Lawrence could not distinguish what sounds were made in the intonations of the hooded figures there. The 5th gateway was unto colored smoke and countless whispers of the Satans. Noticing the physical world again, he offered the demon with him copulence. The being was Antaratu. After condemning him for escapism in his magic, the being told him that it was his last chance at life, and he was supposed to become a god who can make the trials end. The continuing story of E.A. Koetting has made very clear that he can't still the tempest for long or at all. Antaratu continued by teaching him that he was part of something greater than himself. The jinn very much want to manifest in the empirical world, and that there is an external source for mystery. Matthew Lawrence opened the 5 gateways, opening up a sight of demons and buildings of the Jute realm manifesting everywhere in sight, Matthew Lawrence was perceiving things were happening.
On earth as it is in hell.
R is in the madness and appearance of devils. The Keys of Constraint. This chapter of the Book of Azazel, Grimoire of the Damned, by Koetting2 is unique in this book in the way that it makes no claim to spiritual revelation or direct inspiration. But there are parts of the Bible like that too. Lest we forget. What it does say is that Azazel's revelations were typically followed by a Schrodinger's cat argument for the reality of Matthew Lawrence and existence in general. He sees evocation as against transmigration of the soul, but deems calling forth evil spirits necessary to become a god or goddess later. Why would symbols, names, and qualities not be enough to worship what you want? It is not my experience that one has to be fully within a system or deny known limits to make it work. But he is right that one will never be doing sihr or evil magic without its spiritual quality. I also disagree that one has to be an extremist or fanatic to make a sound spiritual covenant. As you know from my other list, if you've seen some of that I personally oppose all extremism, and fanaticism is one of those sorts of things, and I don't believe that's people's own problems, although some face it may be part of it. Such pacts are supposed to be mutual. We are born into a collective existence where mental, emotional, and physical actions of a spiritual sort work differently. Not everything works the same for everyone, but we just can't make up anything and it will work as well for us. The use or development of a working system is around something many have heard in E.A. Koetting videos. Is soul travel or psychic journeys really a way to be omnipresent? Is evocation a way of becoming omnipotent? Is divination really how to become omniscient? And as with the rest of my questions, feel free to respectively share your answers to these questions and comment or question respectfully, disagree respectfully, whatever. Feel free. Attainment of omnipotence returns you to his basic method of getting into the theta gamma sync from his earlier book, Evoking Eternity. Yes, I shared some opinions about that book too. Instead of getting into the basic sort of practice, many New Age and cult books share, the E.A. Koetting repeats. I'll let you know some of what I do regarding some brainwaves and methods. Theta brainwaves are the twilight state of brainwaves that occur more as a person wakes, goes to sleep, or is daydreaming. Gamma brainwaves are those of the higher processing of the knowledge and understanding acquired sensually. My tuning forks are 40 Hz and 256 C. The former is closer to that of marijuana, like effects of 30 Hz, which is within the 25 to 100 Hz gamma, and the 12.5 to 40 Hz beta range of conscious active thought. 40 to 60 Hz is shown to be anxiolytic, I don't know why I mispronounced that, anti-anxiety, minorly tranquilizing, hypnotic, and release beta-endorphin, an opioid 3 times as strong as morphine, and 50 times stronger than actual heroin. The latter is the Pythagorean lemma, the minor second, semitone, 2 hertz short of middle C, scientific C, that can be said to be of the root and heart centers, as well as some patterns in the universe in general and on Earth. Close to the frequency of sleep. Is that where I have the word sleep from? I also well, I may have listed some star or something. I also have chimes set to somewhere in the delta frequency of a tenth of hertz to 3 hertz, found in deep sleep. Okay, there's where I accidentally drugged the word sleep from. That is a frequency that can be used to treat dopamine conditions like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, schizophrenia type conditions, ADD, ADHD, ODD, OCD, diabetes, parasomnia, blood flow disorders, fibromyalgia, and other forms of rheumatism, drug addiction, epilepsy, anxiety, mood disorders, and other forms of arthritis, physical pain, and other conditions. There are other brain waves, but those are more like what the Book of Azazel, Grimoire of the Damned by Koetting2 mentions. Just reading about a faction of mythology gets you in touch with spiritual realities. Untitled teaches that this opens secrets of the infernal empire. And if we study the difference between looking into history and looking into mythology, whether it's true or not, versus looking into fiction, the brain works more. The brain develops more doing these activities. I'm not saying that people who read fiction are retarded or something. I'm absolutely not saying that. Some people are still geniuses, but the studies show that they would develop even more if that wasn't their focus. Antaratu teaches that this opens secrets of the infernal empire. This might be the same type of way that reading scriptures with a devotional intent counts that way for that activity. Page 103 of the Book of Azazel, Grimoire of the Dawn by Koetting2 is part of that programming you to expect results. Matthew Lawrence wants you to feel that you either don't need or can do shorter licenses to appear, bindings, constraints, issuing a task, dismissal, and other complex or lengthy rituals that you may have to read during a rite. What if a person never has the awareness of being at a spiritual crossroads? Sometimes it does seem like you're in between layers and stuff in prayer and meditation and other sorts of rituals or free-form spiritual practice. But some of this stuff may happen to some other people. You got to find some other. The connection has to be worth it. He started by saying that the collective consciousness was only as far as we accept and are exposed to the same things. Then he returns to considering the objective experiences as collective thought forms to be interpreted subjectively as such. Make up your mind. He is right that doubt and confusion can cause an operation to fail in the fruitive sense. Dismissal itself needs no more than clearly ending a practice. I'm against psychological retraction to follow spiritual practices, and I try to hold to the bliss in altered states as long as I can without failing in other aspects of my life. And by that, I mean, like, pain is relieved or stuff like that. You just don't go off and do stuff that you can't do because you're going to hurt yourself, or, you kind of, okay, I got to switch my state of consciousness because this is my activity I'm doing now. Um, that's what I mean. I am not in spiritual practices that make me feel bad. Some people just love that. I don't know what their issue is. How can a cultist inspect the details of the hierarchy left out of the grimoires? E.A. Koetting makes it seem like a person can look over the list of the grimoires. Can look over the list of those under the demon kings, our chiefs, as it is there, as if it's there in a census list hidden in the library somewhere. If Azazel, our Paimon, has 200 legions, and this Grimoire the Dame lists 33 entities, what are the others? Nethers are demon lords, dark lords, and dukes over the remaining legions. Why do we have an uneven breakdown as 13, 12, and 8? Oh, probably that way. EAK is dead on that the presence and power of metaphysical entities seems too far exceed with even a small number of them. He also admits that the imbalance of his knowledge may not be the case with the more complete pictures. With the more complete picture, his information is supposed to come from Azazel himself. Nether or Dark Lord or Demon Lord is over 9 dukes, leading 2,000 each. Page 112 is wrong. This totals 3,602,000 instead of 3,600,000 demons. This checking the math repeatedly and getting it that wrong is an indication that his memory might not have the ability to record the red letter text exactly as stated. Now, there's also the indication that some people have, flash memory. They can't necessarily remember like that all the time, but there are moments. There are moments in life where you remember stuff in ways that's, completely unexpected, not a usual skill. That makes sense because the linguistics seem very much in his own style of philosophizing. The red lettering of the quote said to be the words of Azazel remind us that the Book of Azazel is like E.A. Koetting's version of a red letter edition of the Bible. Is Althron 42:13 about it actually being the same religion sanctified through each prophet of God? Or will you accept the idea of dispensationalism or take on competing ways with religion like those found in the Book of Azazel, Grimoire the Dame by E.A. Koetting? So, is it the same religion? Is it one God, then 3 gods, and then, or is this your scripture? So some people, yes, E.A. Koetting writes books that some people think that are religiously authoritative. So much for the left-hand path, but too many these long quotes seem too good to be true, but I myself have rendered more detail from spiritual experiences. The other criticism is that it seems to lack profundity. Spiritual truths do not always have to be expressed in ways that seem supernaturally revealed. Page 111 admits that those invoked to protect or perform other tasks leave entities with the demonologer. And of course, there's a difference between demonologist and demonologer. Demonologer is a worshiper. maybe even with idols, because that's where the term comes from. When you consider the effects of that residue, is Alperon 42.6 right that those taken to protect aside from God are actually preserved by God, and we shouldn't try to be their dispenser of fairs like that. Demons may remain as the result of a lack of needed repentance. There may be attributes, symbols, and names of each demon that we will never know, but EA Koetting attempts to share some of this. Is all Quran 42:16 right in teaching that disagreeing with pure monotheism will meet no ultimate success, but only loss in its arguments? Eric Arcalas Koetting, or whatever title you call Matthew Lawrence, used the following information in his work, and may have worked with these entities in his becoming. The use of language here, is he watching? Is it Star Trek or Star Wars with the Empire and becoming, like I don't know, the Hannibal Lecter sort of. Who's that character that kind of, he's trying to help his character in the becoming.